Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chela Gimel, and Mi'etz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Samach Beis Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos, and we pick up today on Samach Aleph Amud Beis, 2 lines off the bottom in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Reish Pei Beis Sif Hey. Our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanesunim Batzaru Bashivya, Ha'imdim Bein Bayamu Bein Bayabasha, Hamakim Yirachem Alehem V'Yitziam Yitzaru L'Rvacha Me'afela La'ira, Umishibud L'Geula, Hashta Bagala of Izman Kariv V'Neimar Amen. Our learning should be a schus for Shalema for Tzvi Ben Leah Miriam and for Daniel Ben Naomi. Our learning should be a schus for Yisrael Ben Rachel, Yonasan Ben Michal, and Yoel Ben Michal. The Rebbe Shalom should watch over them together with all of our brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way. B'chol Makom Shahem. Okay, so we've been learning here in Siman Reish Pei Beis a lot of the halachas that pertain to the maftir. So let's just take a quick look at the standard format of our Kriyas HaTorah on a regular Shabbos in Shul. So we take out the Sefer Torah, we start the laning, we call up 7 aliyos, because the halacha is that for Kriyas HaTorah on Shabbos, you need Shiva Olim, you need 7 aliyos. Remember what we said. During the week, Shabbos afternoon Mincha, we have 3 olim. That's always the minimum. The minimum are 3 aliyos. Then on Chol Hamoed, Rosh Chodesh, those have an extra level of Kedusha over a regular weekday. We increase to 4 aliyos. Yom Tov proper has a higher level of Kedusha. We have 5 aliyos. Yom Kippur, still another higher level of Kedusha. We have 6 aliyos. Shabbos, the highest level, Shabbos we have to have 7 aliyos. But we know that on a regular Shabbos, we don't have 7 aliyos. We have 8 aliyos, because we call up 7 olim. We lane the parsha divided between 7 aliyos. Then we say Kaddish. Then after Kaddish, we call up a maftir. The maftir is the 8th aliyah. The maftir, it lanes a few psukim, a repeat performance from some of what was laned during the Shvi. And then, after we put away the Sefer Torah, he is going to be the one who's going to make the brachas and or actually lane the Navi, the HaTorah, which is why his aliyah is called Maftir, because he's the one who's going to lane the HaTorah. Why do we have this division where we lane 7 aliyahs and then have a division by making Kaddish and by saying Kaddish, and then call up the 8th aliyah for the maftir? Because we find in the Gemara machlokes. We have a machlokes. The one who lanes the maftir, could the maftir count towards the required 7 aliyahs or not? There's one shita that says, why not? Why can't he count towards one of the 7 required aliyahs? He's going to have an aliyah, and he's going to lane psukim from the Torah, or the Balkar is going to lane psukim from the Torah on his behalf for his aliyah, and only then afterwards is he going to lane from the Navi. So why can't he count as one of the 7 required aliyahs? But the other Mandi Amar holds that he cannot count towards the 7 required aliyahs. Why? Because really the maftir, there's really no reason for the maftir to have to lane psukim from the Chumash. The purpose of the maftir is to call somebody up so that he should lane from the Navi. Why is he laning psukim from the Torah? Because we cannot have somebody come up, make the brachas of an aliyah, and lane from the Navi without laning from the Torah. Why? Because then it looks like we're equating the Navi and the Torah. And the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the Torah Kedosh itself, has a higher level of Kedusha than the Navi. So we don't want to equate the two. Therefore, Chazal said the maftir also has to lane psukim from the Torah. But in reality, the only reason he's laning those psukim is not because it's part of the chiyuv of the Kriyas HaTorah. It's only mishum kavod HaTorah. There shouldn't be a pagam. People shouldn't look, and they shouldn't make the mistake of equating Torah and Navi. But he's not really laning because it's part of the chiyuv of Kriyas HaTorah of Shabbos. Therefore, he cannot count towards the 7 main aliyahs, and therefore, that's why we have the format that we have. We lane 7 aliyahs, we divide up the entire parsha of the week through those 7 aliyahs. Now we've finished the Kriyas HaTorah. Once we finish the Kriyas HaTorah, we close it off by saying Kaddish. Now we call up an eighth aliyah, we call up a maftir. He's the one that's going to lane from the navi, but he's also going to lane some psukim from chumash, so that he should lane chumash and navi, not just navi alone. So that's the standard that we have. Now, when we turn to Sif Hey, the Mechaber is going to bring up some issues that might come up and how we handle those issues. Says the Mechaber, Sif Hey, 2 lines off the bottom, near the end of the line, Samachalaf Days. Says the Mechaber, what do you do in this interesting case? You don't have anybody who's capable of laning the HaTorah. Maybe he doesn't know HaTorah Trup. Maybe he's not prepared. He doesn't know Navi. He wants to lane from a klaf, and he doesn't know the Navi. Maybe he doesn't know the brachas. He doesn't know how to say them. But in any case, you don't have anybody who's capable of doing the HaTorah. Ela echad me'oisam she'olu likrois b'Torah. You only have, the only ones, or one, who's capable of doing the HaTorah is somebody who already had an aliyah as one of the 7 main aliyahs. Ukvar amar shliach tzibur kaddish, and we find ourselves at the point where we already called up the 7 main aliyahs, and the Baal Koreh already said kaddish, achar kriyas haparsha. So let's make it simple. What happened over here? Well, you had a regular kriyas HaTorah. You called up Kayin, Levi, Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, Shishi, Shvi. You finished the whole Sedra. The Baal Koreh went ahead and he said Kaddish. Now it's time to call up a maftir. To call up a maftir, you want somebody who's going to be able to make the brachas and lane the HaTorah. You don't have anybody. There's nobody left that's capable of doing it. The only one who can do it is one of the individuals who got one of the 7 main aliyahs. What do? Says the Mechaber, Zeh sheroitza lahaftir, the one who you're going to give maftir to, so you're going to give him a second aliyah. He's in luck today. He's going to get 2 aliyahs this Shabbos. Zeh sheroitza lahaftir, tzarich lachzor v'likrois. He's going to have to lane psukim from the chumash, v'yavarech al kriyasa yitchila v'sayif. And he's going to make the regular brachas of an aliyah. He's going to make the opening bracha of Asher Bacha Banu, and he's going to make the closing bracha of Asher Nasa Lanu Tairas Emes. What's the chiddush over here? Well, the chiddush over here is like this. Again, what happened? You did your regular laning. You're holding by maftir. You had 7 aliyahs, and you already said kaddish. Now it's time to call up a maftir. Now remember, the purpose of the maftir is somebody who's going to make the brachas and lane the HaTorah. That's the purpose of the maftir. The only reason the maftir gets an aliyah in the Sefer Torah, and the only reason we lane psukim from the Sefer Torah for the maftir, is so that he should be laning from the chumash and from the navi. Not only from the navi, but in our very funny case over here, we called up 7 aliyahs, and the one that we're going to call up for the maftir already had an aliyah in the Sefer Torah, because we don't have anybody else to give maftir to. We don't have anybody else who's capable of taking care of the HaTorah. So we're going to call up now for the maftir somebody who already had an aliyah in the chumash. Well, you might think in that case, why do we have to call him up and give him an aliyah in the Sefer Torah and lane from the Sefer Torah? Let's just call him up and let him lane from the Navi. He already had laning from the Sefer Torah, so really when you look at it, it's kind of like no one's going to make the mistake and say, oh, we're equating the Navi to the Chumash and we're giving somebody an aliyah only in the Navi. No, this guy had an aliyah in the Sefer Torah and he's having an aliyah now in the Navi, so he is covering both. Maybe you might think there's no reason to lane for him from the Sefer Torah. Kamash Malon the Mechaber, no, you have to. He has to lane from the Sefer Torah, or the Baal Koreh has to lane psukim on his behalf from the Sefer Torah, and v'yavarech al kriyas of tchila v'soif, and he's going to make the regular brachas of an aliyah. And don't worry over here that he's making extra brachas. And the Mishnah Berurah explains why. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Chav Zayin. Im loy nimtza. So first of all, the Mishnah Berurah just points out that sometimes this might happen it might be a problem, not just that you can't find somebody who's capable of learning the HaTorah because he can't read the psukim of the Navi or whatever it is. Maybe he can, but there's another issue. V'hu adin b'Shabbos shel Chazayin. Let's say it's Shabbos Chazayin. Now, Shabbos Chazayin, we learn the HaTorah, but we learn the HaTorah with the HaTorah. What if this fellow just doesn't know HaTorah? Says the Mishnah Berurah, "V'hu adin b'Shabbos shel Chazayin. Afilu nimtza b'isha yedei lahaftir b'Navi." You might have somebody available in shul who's capable of learning the HaTorah, rak shelo yada l'koinen kanog, but he doesn't know the HaTorah. So says the Chavetz Chaim, if he doesn't know the HaTorah, he's not available for learning the HaTorah on Shabbos Chazayin, because Shabbos Chazayin requires the HaTorah. So if you only have somebody who had one of the 7 main aliyahs who knows the HaTorah, you're going to call him up. Gam kein dina hachi. You have to lay psukim for this aliyah from the Chumash. Says the Mishnah Berurah, "Va'afilu hashvi roitz al hafter tzarich lachsav alikrois." Even, let's say it's the shvi, right? So you called up your main 7 aliyahs, and now a fellow had shvi. He finished his aliyah. Right after he finished his aliyah, the Balkari said Kaddish. Now you realize that you have nobody who could do the HaTorah except the shvi. Now, in this case, this fellow is standing by the bima. He just finished having an aliyah with a lane from the Torah. Do you have to now call him up for the maftir and lane from the Torah again before he lanes from the Navi? Says the Mishnah Berurah, yes, you do. Kevin shehifsik b'Kaddish. Because remember, he had shvi, and then after shvi you said Kaddish. Now, if he goes and he lanes from the Navi without having an aliyah in the Chumash, in the Sefer Torah, it really looks like his whole aliyah is only in the Navi. And like the Mishnah Berurah explains, especially hanichnosim. Let's say somebody came very late to shul. So a fellow walked into shul just now after you finished saying Kaddish. What's this person going to see? This person is not going to know that the person who's laning from the Navi now is the fellow who had shvi. He wasn't here by shvi. He came in after Kaddish. He's going to see somebody go up and just lane from the Navi. He's going to say, well, this guy didn't lane from the Sefer Torah, so it looks like you just called him up for the Navi. That's a problem. And therefore, the ikkabizayin l'Torah kida arina b'Gemara, like we say in the Gemara in Megillah, the hamaftir tzarich sheyikra b'Torah tchila. The one who gets maftir and is going to lane from the Navi has to lane from the Sefer Torah first. Mipnei kavod HaTorah. And the Mishnah Berurah explains over again, Hainu, what's the problem here? The iya maftir yaftir b'neviim. If the maftir is going to make the brachas and lane from the Navi, v'yavarich alav v'layikru b'Torah, and he's not going to lane from the Sefer Torah, harei onu mashvim divrei haneviim l'Torah b'kriyu bracha. We're equating the Navi and the Sefer Torah. The same way somebody gets an aliyah by the Sefer Torah with a bracha before and a bracha after and a laning in the middle. That's what we're doing now with the Navi. We're calling somebody up. He's making a bracha before, Asher Bachar b'Neviim Tovim, and then he's laning from the Navi, and then he's going to make the brachas after the HaTorah. So it looks like it's the same. One guy gets an aliyah in the Sefer Torah, another guy gets an aliyah in the Navi. That's why the rule is that the maftir always has to have an aliyah in the Sefer Torah, and he always has to lane from the Sefer Torah first. And that will show us that the Torah is the ikar. Nevertheless, in our case over here, this first case in Siv Hey, where the Balkari already said Kaddish between the Shvi and the Maftir, it would be better Sheyikra HaMaftir Echad Min HaKoidmin V'loi HaShvi. It would be better that either the Kohen, the Levi, the Shlishi, the Revi, the Chabishi, the Shishi, one of them should get the Maftir and should make the bracha on an aliyah in the Sefer Torah and then lane the Navi, not the Shvi. Why is that? Because for the Shvi to do it, it really does look a little bit sketchy. For the Shvi to do it, the Shvi goes up, he has an aliyah in the Sefer Torah, and then, without an interruption of another aliyah, right away he's having a second aliyah, and then laning from the Navi. It looks very extraneous. If it's the Chamishi or the Revi, so okay, it's a while ago that he had his aliyah. And after his aliyah, other people had aliyahs. Now you need him to lane the Haftarah. You're going to call him up from after. I understand you're going to lane again from the Sefer Torah, and you're going to have him make a new set of brachas. But if it's the Shvi, it's 2 aliyahs in a row. So says the Mishnah Berurah, it would be better that you should use one of the other aliyahs, not the Shvi. Okay, now the Ramah tweaks the case a little bit. So, okay, in the first case of the Mechaber, what happened? You called up the 7 aliyahs, and you said Kaddish. So the Kriyas HaTorah is over. The main Kriyas HaTorah of Shabbos is over. You laned the whole parsha, you had 7 aliyahs, you already said Kaddish, you're up to Maftir. Now you realize, I don't have anybody capable of doing the Haftarah, except somebody who had one of the earlier aliyahs. Okay, says the Mechaber, somebody's going to get a repeat. Someone's lucky day today, he gets 2 aliyahs. You call him up from after, you lane from the Sefer Torah, and then you have him do the Haftarah, you have him lane the Navi. Says the Ramah, let's tweak the case a little bit. Haga. Avalim lo yamar Kaddish. Let's say the Baal Korah did not yet say Kaddish. So you did your 7 aliyahs, and you didn't say Kaddish yet. And now you have the same problem. The only difference is you didn't say Kaddish. The Gabbai is looking around. The Baal Korah didn't say Kaddish yet. The Gabbai is looking around. Who am I going to give Maftir to? And then he realizes the only one who can handle the Haftarah is somebody who already had an aliyah. What do you do in this case? So the only difference is that you don't have the hefsek of Kaddish yet. In that case, says the Ramah, Avalim lo yamar Kaddish, yafter misha olo l'shvi im yoidea. If the shvi is somebody who could do the Haftarah, just let him segue straight into the Haftarah. So now it mamish looks the same as a regular maftir. What happens normally by maftir? The maftir has an aliyah, and right after his aliyah, there's Hag B'Galila in the middle, but the maftir has his aliyah, and then he segues right into the Haftarah. He makes the bracha before the Haftarah, Shabbacha b'Neviyim Tovim, and then he lanes from the Navi. So in this case, you called up your 7 aliyahs, and you didn't say Kaddish yet, and you realize that you need somebody to lane the Haftarah, and you don't have anybody, so let the Shvi segue right into the laning of the Haftarah. And remember, it's not a problem, because Me'ikar Adin, we paskin that the Maftir does count towards one of the 7 required aliyahs. We're choishish for the Madhyama that says not that way, but Me'ikar Adin, we paskin that the Maftir does count towards one of the 7 required aliyahs. So says the Ramah, in this case, that's what you should do. Again, Avalim lo yamar Kaddish. If you didn't say Kaddish yet, yafter misha olo l'shvi im yodeya. If the Shvi is capable of laning the Haftarah, don't say Kaddish now. Let him go ahead and do the Haftarah, and then you'll say Kaddish after the Haftarah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Chavtes yafter misha olo, hainu sheyafter b'navi. He should go straight into the Navi. After his aliyah, he should go straight into the laning of the Haftarah. He should make the bracha, Shabbacha b'Neviyim Tovim, v'rotzim b'divrayim, haneh morim be'emes, and go into the Haftarah. Ve'id tzarek lachzor v'likreis b'Torah. He doesn't have to have another aliyah in the Sefer Torah. So this Shabbos, you're only going to have 7 aliyahs, you're not going to have 8. Elamasha kar b'shvi b'siyam ha'parsha, oikishe sifu mishakar b'akron, olegam lamaftir. That will be the maftir aliyah. Because remember, we paskin Me'ikar Adin that the maftir can count towards the one of the 7 required aliyahs. And then you'll say Kaddish after the laning of the Navi. The Pri Megadim writes, to who Adin b'chol maftir. The same halacha would apply on every Shabbos by maftir. Interesting shaila comes up. You have a stand-in Gabbai who's not experienced, and you have an inexperienced Baal Korah. They called up all 7 aliyahs, they finished the parsha of the week, and the Baal Korah forgot to say Kaddish. And right after the Shvi, they called up somebody who has yard-side from after, and the guy went ahead and had his aliyah. And then somebody comes over to the bima and says, we never said Kaddish. So now you're going to have a shout, what do? We were supposed to say Kaddish between Shvi and Maftir. We forgot to say Kaddish. The Maftir already had his aliyah. Should we say Kaddish now between the Maftir and the Haftarah? Or should we say the Kaddish after the Haftarah? Says the Pri Megadim, because of our Pri Megadim, do Adin b'chol Maftir. Kishashachach loimer HaKaddish b'kodim. If you forget to say Kaddish before the Haftarah, v'nizkar achar shekvar kora hamaftir b'Torah, and you remember your mistake after the maftir already had his aliyah, but before the HaTorah, lo yomer HaKadosh ad lacha kriyas HaTorah u'berachoseh, you should not recite Kaddish until after the completion of the laning of the HaTorah and the brachas of the HaTorah. The Ramah said that in this case, where you didn't say Kaddish, if the Shvi knows how to lane the HaTorah, the Shvi should segue right into the HaTorah, and he doesn't get a second aliyah. So you're only going to have 7 aliyahs and then the HaTorah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'ma Shvi eini yodea. Well, what if the Shvi does not know how to lane the HaTorah? V'yitztarich lalois lamafter echad me'akoidmin. So again, what's the case? You laned all 7 aliyahs, you finished the parsha. Now you need somebody from maftir. You don't have anybody who knows how to lane the HaTorah, anybody who's capable of doing maftir, except the shlishi. The shlishi, he knows how to lane the HaTorah. He could do the HaTorah. And you didn't say Kaddish yet. Well, in that case, says the Mishnah Berurah, Oz b'chol gavni tzarich lazer v'likrois u'levarech b'Torah l'shem maftir. If you're going to use the shlishi or the revi or the chamishi or the shishi or the kohen or the levi, if you're going to use one of them for the maftir, then you have to first say Kaddish, and then call him up from maftir, give him a second aliyah, and then let him do the HaTorah. It's only if the shvi is the one who's capable of doing the maftir. If the shvi is the one who's capable of doing the maftir, and you have not yet said Kaddish, you could let the shvi segue right into the navi, because that looks like a normal situation. Again, every week the maftir has an aliyah, and he goes right into the HaTorah. So over here, the shvi is going to have an aliyah, and he's going to go right into the HaTorah. In that case, you don't have to give him a second aliyah. You don't have to make an actual maftir aliyah. You could just let him go straight into the HaTorah. But if you're going to use the shishi, or for sure if you're going to use the kohen, right, then there's been a long hefsek between his aliyah and now when you want to do the HaTorah. In that case, first say Kaddish, and then call him up from maftir, let him have an aliyah in the Sefer Torah of maftir, and then let him lane from the navi. Continues the Ramah, second line down, middle of the line. But in a normal case, without any strange issues coming up, says the Ramah, but if it's a normal Shabbos, and you have plenty of people available to call up for maftir, and they're capable of making the brachas on the navi and or laning the HaTorah, if you have other people available who are capable of doing maftir, and you don't need to use one of the first people who had one of the main 7 aliyahs, lo yaftir misha ala kvar. In a normal situation, don't give out repeat aliyahs. Don't decide, oh, the shlishi is such a chash of a person, we're going to give him shlishi and maftir. No, give maftir to somebody else. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Kat Lamed Aleph, lo yaftir, u'b'Shabbos chazoin, on Shabbos chazoin, b'makom sha'minig shekaron harav lamaftir, when it was the minig that the Rav would get the aliyah of maftir, the aliyah of chazoin yishayayu, lo yikru b'kaid v'l'shlishi. So don't call up the Rav for shlishi. In other words, this is the halakha that the Ramah said. Under normal circumstances, we don't do repeat aliyahs. So don't give the Rav shlishi and then give the Rav maftir to give him chazain. No, if you're giving him chazain, don't give him shlishi. Brings us down from the Magen of Ravna, Taisa Shabbos, Ayin, Be'el Yerabah for more detail. Oiskot Lamed Beis, Misha ala Kvar. Don't give a repeat aliyah to somebody who already had an aliyah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, how about a funny situation? Im karula adam la Torah, if they call somebody up to the Sefer Torah, bebeis hakneses acheres, in a different shul, then is damen lo oisa parsha shakara hayoim. So I could give you a very simple example of this happening. You have a Rav. The Rav davened in his shul at a 7 o'clock minyan. By Kriyas HaTorah, they gave him shlishi. So he had shlishi, parshas chayasara, and he davened in his shul at the 7 o'clock minyan, and he had shlishi. He finishes davening, davens musaf, everything else, and now after davening, he has to go because somebody in the community is making a kiddush in another shul after the 9 o'clock minyan. And he has to go to that kiddush. So he goes to the other shul, and he walks in by laning, and in that shul, the Rav is away for Shabbos. So now the Gabbai looks, and he says, oh, our Rav is away for Shabbos, but Rabbi Pliny just walked in. We'll give him shlishi. And they call him up for shlishi. So he had Shlishi this morning in his shul, and now he's getting called up for Shlishi again. So it's a very strange thing. He already had an aliyah, and he already made the brachas of an aliyah already on Shlishi once today. Now he's going to go do it again on Shlishi again. So not only is he getting a second aliyah, he's getting the same exact aliyah for a second time. Is that an issue of like a bracha she'eina tzricha, chas v'chalila bracha of HaTorah? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. If somebody gets called up to the Sefer Torah in a different shul than he davened in this morning, and they call him up for the exact same aliyah that he had already this morning once before, he has to go make another bracha. And it's not a question of a bracha she'eina tzricha or a bracha of HaTorah. This is not a question of somebody who made a shahakol on a cup of water and then right away wants to make another shahakol without a hefsik or without hezek hadas. That would be a bracha of HaTorah because you already covered yourself. You made a shahakol already for this drink. That's not the way it works by an aliyah. By an aliyah, it's not a brachas hamitzvahs. When you make a bracha by an aliyah, you're making a bracha l'kavod HaTorah. Think about it for a minute. What's the first bracha of an aliyah? Asher bracha banu mikol ha'abim v'nas alanu es Torasai. Well, you already made that bracha when you said brachas HaTorah in the morning. Is there a problem with bracha l'vatala? No. When you made the bracha of Asher bracha banu by brachas hashachar, that was your bracha of brachas HaTorah that you're mechuyev to make before you learn Torah. When you get called up for an aliyah, you make the bracha of Asher bracha banu l'chvaid HaTorah. You go to a different shul and you get called up for another aliyah. Okay, you need to make a bracha on that aliyah. You need to make a bracha l'chvaid HaTorah for the aliyah that you're having now. So that is a non-issue. Now we turn to Sivav, 3 lines down, middle of the line, says the Mechaber. Im ta shliach tzibur, if the Balkara made a mistake, v'siyam parsha im hashishi, the Balkara blew right through Shvi. He didn't stop by Shvi, and he went straight from Shishi all the way to the end of the parsha. So now you finished the parsha, but you only had 6 aliyahs. The chiyuv on Shabbos is to have 7 aliyahs. And not only that, they only did 6 aliyahs, and then they said Kaddish, because the Baal Keri knows I finished the parsha, it's time to say Kaddish. Then somebody comes and says, Reb Yid, you blew right through Shvi, you only had 6 aliyahs, and you already said Kaddish. Says the Mechaber, Ein sarich likrois oid acher. You don't have to fill in that missing aliyah. What do I mean? Ella, continues the Mechaber, Yikra im ha-maftir mashakar im hashishi, call up maftir. And the maftir will repeat part of the last aliyah, and he will be the 7th aliyah. In other words, what's the problem over here? You laned the whole parsha, so you covered the requirement of laning the parsha of the week. The problem is that you're short in aliyah. Shabbos needs to have 7 aliyahs. You only had 6. Now, you laned 6, and then you said Kaddish. Now, you're going to call up another aliyah, because you're going to call up a maftir, right? So in this case, Paskins the Mechaber, we're going to follow the Ikar Adin, which is that the maftir is allowed to count as one of the 7 required aliyahs. So fine, you finished the parsha with 6 aliyahs. After you finished the parsha, you said Kaddish. Now call up your last aliyah. Call him up after the Kaddish. He'll be the maftir. Yamoid, Pliny ben Pliny, maftir. He's going to be the maftir. But he's also going to count as the 7th aliyah. The Kaimalon maftir oila leminyan shiva. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut lamed gimel. Ain't tzarich likreis. It's like a leimar. What the Mechaber means to say is, she'ain't tzarich likreis oid shvi milavad maftir. It's not, oh, we forgot to call up a shvi. Let's call up a shvi now, and then let's call up a maftir. No, you don't need to do that. The Akrei Shamar Kaddish B'siyam HaParsha, because once you already said Kaddish at the end of the parsha of the week, Einay Kairei Achakach Rak L'Shem Maftir Levad. Now you're only going to call up another aliyah from maftir. Kamosha Rogel Tamid Achar Kaddish, which is what we always do after Kaddish. You need 7 aliyahs. For who yia oila leminyan shiva, the maftir is going to count as the 7th one of the required 7 aliyahs. Avalim niskar koidim shamar Kaddish. But what if you realized the mistake before the Baal Keri says Kaddish? So you laned 6 aliyahs, and the Baal Keri blew through Shvi, he went all the way to the end of the parsha, and somebody stopped him before he could say Kaddish. He said, whoa, hold it. Don't say Kaddish. You only had 6 aliyahs. In that case, says the Mishnah Berurah, Oz tzarich likrois echad l'shvi. So now you'll call up somebody for shvi. Mimasha karakvar, and the Balkar will repeat some of the psukim that were laid for the shishi. V'yasayim a parsha imay, finish the parsha again. V'yamar Kaddish, should say Kaddish. V'achakach yachzir likrois says a psukim lamafter, k'maisha rogel tamid. And then after Kaddish, you'll call up a mafter, and again you'll repeat some psukim for the aliyah of mafter. You don't have to say another Kaddish. So again, if you did 6 aliyahs and then you did Kaddish, so fine. So now call up them after. You're not going to make another Kaddish. There's no reason to make another Kaddish. Okay, Sif Zion. A very interesting little Sif at the end of this fascinating Siman. Says the Mechaber. Kara haparsha betfila shachris b'Shabbos. Shabbos morning, you had Kriyas HaTorah, and you laned. The Balkar laned. V'dileg pasuk echad, and he left out a pasuk. Somewhere in the middle of laning, he left out a pasuk. Or the Mishnah Berurah says he left out a word. So, okay, Parshas Chayesar. The Balkar lanes the whole parsha. You had 7 aliyahs. You had maftir. And now somebody comes walking up to the bima with his chumash, and he says, I think you skipped the pasuk in the middle of shlishi. And the Balkara looks, and he looks at the chumash, and he says, you're right. I taka missed that pasuk. What do you do now? Says the Mechaber, Kara parsha betfila shachris b'Shabbos. You laid the parsha Shabbos morning by Kriyas HaTorah, v'dileg pasuk echad, and you left out a pasuk. Or like the Mishnah Berurah says, you left out a word. Chayzer v'kairei. You got to lane it over again. Who? Ushnayim imoy. You have to lane the pasuk that you skipped, but you're not allowed to lane one pasuk. So you got to lane that pasuk with 2 other psukim. And the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell me, and you're going to make brachas. And now the Mechaber continues, Va'afilu hifter v'hispal musaf chayzer v'kairei. So I want you to understand what the Mechaber is telling you here, and how this could play itself out. Let's say you laned all 7 aliyahs, and then the Balkar said Kaddish, and then you called up the mafter, and you did mafter. The mafter had his aliyah, and now you're about to do a Hag B'Galila, and now somebody comes up and says, Reb Yid, Balkar, you missed a pasuk in the middle of the parsha, or you missed a word in the middle of the parsha. And the Balkar says, yeah, you're right. Taka, it's a mistake. I taka left something out. You know what you're going to do? Yamoid, you're going to call up another aliyah. He's going to make the regular brachas of an aliyah. And what are you going to lane? So if he left out a pasuk, you're going to go to the pasuk that he skipped, and you're going to lane that pasuk and the next 2 psukim. Because you have to lane a minimum of 3 psukim. Now, there are other details that are going to come up when such a shaila happens. And that is, it's going to depend where the psukim are. What do you do if the pasuk is at the end of a parsha? If the pasuk is at the end of a parsha, you're not allowed to lane only one pasuk at the end of the parsha. You might have to start a couple of psukim before. If you're going into a new parsha, you have to go at least 3 psukim into the new parsha. So there could be other details. The Rav is gonna write a chabura after Shabbos. This shaila is gonna come up. The Rav is gonna have stories to tell his peers. When he's in a meeting of Rabbanim, he's gonna have a great story to tell over, and they're gonna have to rehash the details of what exactly happened, where the pasuk was, and what the psak halach is. But the main point, the point that the Mechaber is giving us over here in Siman Reish Pei Beis, is that if you miss a pasuk or you miss a word, even if you finished the whole laning, even if you called up all of your aliyahs already, you're going to have to call up another aliyah. You're going to have to go and cover what you missed. Now, you can't lane one pasuk alone. You have to lane a minimum of 3 psukim. So you'll have to lane the pasuk that you missed and another 2 psukim. And the Mechaber ends off, and he says, this is true. Afil hifter v'hispal musaf chayzer v'kairei. Let's say you did Hag B'Galila, you put away the Sefer Torah, you daven musaf, and if the musaf, somebody comes to the bima, and it comes to the Balkara, and then they have a powwow with the Gabbai, and the Balkara says, this guy's right, I missed the pasuk. Guess what? You're going to take the Sefer Torah back out, and you're going to call up somebody for an aliyah, and you're going to lane the pasuk that got missed with another 2 psukim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Lamed Hey. V'tilek pasuk echad, hu adin tevachas, even one word. Ela shediber b'hoive. Chavetz Chaim says it would seem to be more probable that somehow a whole pasuk that got skipped than a word got skipped. Ois Katan Lamed Vav, Chayze v'karei, v'yavarach lefaneo lacharei la shlosh psukim. You're going to make an aliyah for those 3 psukim. Like I told you, the Mishnah Berurah points out, you got to go back to Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah, Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin, because there are going to be a lot of other details that are going to be negeya if such a shaila comes up. Truth is that by me, we just had in shul recently a shaila of this nature, where somebody corrected the Baal Korah. The Baal Korah mispronounced a word, and it was a mispronunciation that made a difference in the meaning of the word. And it was caught right when the Baal Korah made the mistake. Somebody corrected it, but somebody else said no. So the Baal Korah ended up not correcting himself. Then after davening, there was a powwow about it. After laning, after the Sefer Torah was put away, there was a powwow about it. And like, wait a second, this is wrong. He mispronounced it. So now we've finished laning, and we know, and we went to the Baal Korah, and the Baal Korah said, yes, it's true, I mispronounced it. So l'chayr, that's this shaila. We lost a word. We missed a word from the Kriyas HaTorah, because it was mispronounced, and it was mispronounced in a manner that makes a difference in the meaning of the word. So that means that we lost a word. We didn't have one of the words from Kriyas HaTorah. So now came the shaila, should we take out the Sefer Torah and call up an aliyah and lane that pasuk over again with another 2 psukim? Or maybe we should wait till Mincha, where we're taking out the Sefer Torah anyway, and by Mincha, by the first aliyah of Mincha, by the Kohen, go back to that pasuk from the previous parsha, lane that pasuk in 2 psukim, and then segue into the new Kriyas HaTorah. In the end, we asked a pasuk who was there, and the pasuk said that the mistake that was made was where, and we learned about this, was where a letter that should have been a shin was pronounced as a sin. So the pasuk said that those are oisiyos hamischalfos. Those are commonly like by the Litvisha, right? Very often they say good Shabbos. They say a sin instead of a shin. He says in such a case you could rely on the fact that even though it was read as a sin, it could still cover a shin, and therefore we shouldn't lane again. But that was the shaila, that was the declared that we had. The subject that we had was maybe we should do what we were describing here. Make a special aliyah, or at least do it by mincha, and do it again. Now, the Mechaber in the beginning of Sif Zayin here, he stresses that this shaila is only negeya betfilas shachris b'Shabbos. This wouldn't be negeya on a Monday or a Thursday, or a Shabbos mincha. You're not going to say that if Monday morning the Baal Korah skipped the pasuk, later Monday afternoon you should take the Sefer Torah out again, and you should call up an aliyah and you should correct it. The reason it's only negeya Shabbos is because the Takanas Chachamim is that using all the Shabbos of the year, we should lane Kol HaTorah Kula. And now you missed a pasuk, so you have to make up that missing pasuk. Missing a pasuk on a Monday is not a big deal. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not a big deal, it's a problem. But we don't have to go ahead and make a special aliyah to make that pasuk up. On Shabbos, we're going to lane the whole parsha. Okay. Yeah, we're going a little bit long, but let's see how much more we can get done here. Siman Reish Pei Gimel. Lama ein moitziin shnei sifrei Torah b'Shabbos abai sif echad. This is actually a very interesting question that I wonder if any of you ever had. And that is, let's imagine it's Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, we always take out 2 sifrei Torah. Why do we take out 2 sifrei Torah? We have 1 Sefer Torah for the 5 aliyahs of the main laning. So I always like to use the example of Shvi Shel Pesach, because Shvi Shel Pesach we have a very specific Kriyas HaTorah, the Kriyas HaTorah of Kriyas Yamsuf. So we're going to take out 1 Sefer Torah, we're going to lay Kriyas Yamsuf, and we're going to make 5 aliyahs. Then we take out a separate Sefer Torah from Maftir. And what do we lane from that Sefer Torah? The Korban Musaf of Shvi Shel Pesach. On Shavuos, we take out 2 Sifrei Torah. From 1 Sefer Torah, we lane Kabbalas HaTorah. What do we do with the second Sefer Torah? we lane the carbon musaf of Shavuos. Well, how about Shabbos? Why don't we do that on Shabbos? So why don't we take out one Sefer Torah, lane Chayesara, and then have a second Sefer Torah where we lane the psukim that describe the carbon musaf of Shabbos? Uviyam HaShabbos shnei chvasim b'nei shana timimim u'shnei Yisrael mitzvos b'ncham l'Hashem v'nizka Shabbos b'Shabbatai alayis hatamim v'nizka. Why don't we do that? Why don't we have a Sefer Torah and an Aliyah for the carbon musaf of Shabbos? Every Shabbos should have two Sifrei Torah. So says the Mechaber Sif Aleph, the only Sif in this Siman, Ma she'ein moitziin b'Shabbos Sefer Sheni likros Parshas HaMusafim. This that we don't take out a Sefer Torah on a regular Shabbos and lane the psukim of the carbon musaf shel Shabbos from a second Sefer Torah, mipnei she'ein ba el shnei psukim. The reason is because the whole parsha of the carbon musaf of Shabbos is only two psukim. And we know we don't lane only two psukim. We lane a minimum of 3 psukim. The truth is that the psukim of the carbon musaf of Shabbos are in the Rosh Chodesh Kriyas HaTorah. You have Perek Chav Ches, Pasuk Tes. Uv'yom HaShabbos, shnei chvasim b'nei shana timimim, u'shnei Yisraelim selos mincha b'lulav Hashem v'niskai. That's one pasuk that describes the exact carbon musaf of a Shabbos. It's 2 kvasim, 2 shepselach, 2 sheep. And then the second pasuk is Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbatoi. That's the carbon oila for the musaf of Shabbos. Al Oilas hatamid v'niska. That's brought in addition to the regular carbon hatamid. So on Shabbos, you have a special carbon musaf that you bring in addition to the regular carbon tamid. So those are the 2 psukim that describe the carbon musaf shel Shabbos. We can't make a Kriyas HaTorah out of 2 psukim, and therefore we can't take out a Sefer Torah to go make a separate aliyah for these 2 psukim of the carbon musaf shel Shabbos. We'll read the Mishnah Berurah, and then I'll ask the obvious question and give an answer. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut out. She'ein ba ve'ein karim b'Torah pasuk b'shalosh psukim. We never like less than 3 psukim from a Sefer Torah. Ukadaleil Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin. Now you'll ask me a question. So what's the problem? So don't only lane 2 psukim. Add on a few more psukim. Why? Who says you have to stop by Oil Shabbos b'Shabbatoi al Oil Satamim v'Niska? Continue into the next parsha over Roshei Chachechem Takrivu Elal Hashem. Go and lane more psukim. What's the problem? So let's start with psukim shaloyim in Yoni Shal Yom Efsher. The Mishnah Berurah says you can't do that. It's not me in Yoni Shal Yom. Now they ask the obvious kasha on this Mishnah Berurah, which is, what do you mean we can't do that? We do that all the time. I'll give you one time that we do it on Rosh Chodesh. Why? I just told you that the psukim of the carbon musaf of Shabbos are part of the Kriyas HaTorah that we lane on every Rosh Chodesh. Now, let's take a look at that Kriyas HaTorah. You know, the Kriyas HaTorah that we lane on every Rosh Chodesh, Vayidaber Hashem Moshe B'Artavis B'nei Yisrael V'Amarta Lehem as Karbon Yilachmi L'Ishai. This is not talking about Rosh Chodesh. This is talking about the daily carbon tamid. And then the next aliyah, not the next aliyah, the shlishi, Uviyayim HaShabbos Shnei Chvazim B'nei Shana Timimim. That's not talking about Rosh Chodesh. That's talking about Shabbos. It's only in the Revi. It's only the last aliyah of the Rosh Chodesh laning that starts Uvarashei Chachechem Takrivu Elal Hashem. So what does it mean that we can't take out a second Sefer Torah for the carbon musaf of Shabbos because we can't lane something that's not mean Yonah Shal Yom? What do you mean? We do that all the time. The answer is because on Rosh Chodesh we have the aliyah of Uvarashei Chachechem, which is more than 3 psukim. So we're taking out the Sefer Torah to lane a parsha, to lane a laning of Rosh Chodesh, which is more than 3 psukim. We have to turn it into 4 aliyahs. So we also lane the description of the regular daily carbon hatamid, and we also lane the description of the carbon musaf shel Shabbos in order to make 4 aliyahs out of it, and in order to have enough psukim for the whole Kriyas HaTorah. But the Etzem Parsha that we want to lane today, the Rosh Chodesh Parsha, is itself more than 3 psukim. By Shabbos, it's not that way. The whole Parsha of the Carbon Musaf of Shabbos is only 2 psukim. We're not going to take out a Sefer Torah for a laning of only 2 psukim. Let's just finish off this Mishnah Berurah. Taisus gives another reason why we're not going to take out a second Sefer Torah every Shabbos to lay in the psukim of the Karban Musaf Shal Shabbos. The HaTorah that we lay every week has something to do with the parsha, with the Kriyas HaTorah that we laid. The Karinan B'Shal Shabbos, if we're going to take out a second Sefer Torah, and we're going to end off the laning on every Shabbos of the year with a laning about the Karban Musaf of Shabbos, the HaTorah would have to be something that has to do with the end of the laning. It would have to be something that has to do with Shabbos. So what the Taisus is saying is like this. Like this, every week we have a unique HaTorah. Right? I believe it or not, I hate to say it, but I already forgot what Parshas Chayesara's HaTorah was. V'amelech David Zakein Ba Bayomim. Right? So, okay, this has something to do with Parshas Chayesara. Parshas Chayesara, we're talking about the Ptira, the passing of Avram Avinu. In Chayesara, we're talking about the passing of David HaMelech. David HaMelech is already a Zakein. And he's bringing Shlomo HaMelech, he's anointing, so to speak, Shlomo HaMelech. He's getting Shlomo HaMelech ready to pass on the Melucha to him. So we have a HaTorah that has something to do with Parshas Chayesara. So to every Shabbos, we have a HaTorah that has something to do with the laning that we laid on Shabbos. If we're going to take out a second Sefer Torah every Shabbos, and from that second Sefer Torah we're going to lay about the Karban Musaf of Shabbos, then the HaTorah is not going to be able to be patterned after the Parsha of the week, because that was the first Sefer Torah. It's going to have to be patterned after the laning that we laid from the second Sefer Torah. What's that laning? The Karban Musaf of Shabbos. So we're going to have a HaTorah about Shabbos. So 52 Shabbos of the year, well, not quite, because some Shabbos are going to be taken up by Yom Tovim and Chanukah, Rosh Chodesh, etc., etc. But most of the Shabbos of the year, we're going to have to learn a HaTorah that has to do with Shabbos. So all the HaTorahs are going to be the same. And we don't want that to happen, so that's not what we do. Now, you'll ask me a kasha. So what do we do on Yom Tov? How do we have HaTorahs on Yom Tov that have to do with anything other than the Karban Musaf of Yom Tov, right? Because every Yom Tov, we take out a Sefer Torah. So Shavuos, we take out a Sefer Torah, and from the second Sefer Torah, we lay in the Karban Musaf of Shavuos. What's the HaTorah? The HaTorah has to do with Shavuos. It doesn't have to do with the Karban Musaf of Shavuos, but it has to do with Shavuos. So Shavuos' HaTorahs have to do with Shavuos. Pesach's HaTorahs have to do with Pesach. Sukkot's HaTorahs have to do with Sukkot. So that's not a problem. But to have all the Shabbos of the year, HaTorah that has to do with Shabbos, that's going to end up being a problem. Okay, we're not going to quite finish the page. I went a little over time. We'll stop over here, and we'll have to make up for lost time. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. This list of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael, the Baruch Shem Shesen, Yeshua Sefuris Parnassus Sheduchim to those in need. We should be zeicher to see the Bias Gal Tzedek. B'mher v'yameinu amen. Be well.